Thanks for watching. This is my Axial SCX6 and I repainted mine. This is ready to run. You have perhaps seen me unbox it and do like a little review. Maybe you've seen my running video. I will make sure that you can find all of those videos in the playlist that this video is in. This truck to me is absolutely amazing. It absolutely ticks all of the boxes of what I hoped would come out at some stage. So it is big scale, it is a trail truck. I'm having a blast with it, not just driving it, but also now in modifying it and making it look a bit more personal. First off, painting a truck on the outside, which I had to do over here since this was ready to run. And at the time of this filming, there were no clear bodies available. Painting on the outside is completely different to painting it on the inside, but there is a lot possible if you get a bit creative. And second of all, if you add that creativity to some of the other stuff as well, that is out there, that is available, you can really get a lot done. I will try to explain you briefly in this video what I did to make my truck look like this. There is also a painting video which I edited to some music. I condensed that to like a 10-minute video. It was like a couple of hours of footage that I needed to weed through, but I hope that that perhaps comes in handy if you want to have color numbers, stuff like that, see what I did, what, where, and when and how. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. The first thing I did, and I think that's also for the look of this particular truck very important, is I took off all of the window stickers, or all of the window stickers in front. I left the ones in the back and also on the tailgate, just because those were not that bothersome to me. But I did want to have like a full view on an interior panel. So that interior, it comes standard. But if you paint it up a bit and make it look a bit more detailed, there is a lot possible. So what I did, I took the window stickers off in the front, masked those windows up, getting them ready for paint at a later stage. So you mark it up with a pen, you cut everything, and then after you cut it and you've basically started to peel it or made it peel ready, you mask it up again just to make sure that it's fully covered up and safe for the stage where you are going to end up painting it at some point, which is one of the last parts of your paint job, because I saved painting all the windows and the window frames for the part where I also put on the shut line. So that's the very end of your paint scheme. At first you just need to decide what you want to have on that body. On a different body, on like a clear body, you work from the outside in, and here you work from the inside out. So the more layers you add, the more paint you will see on the outside and the more detail you get on the outside. If you want to have detail like far back, like for example what I did over here, if you want to have a sky, you need to start off with that sky. I hope that makes sense. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to have a cityscape on one side, because you see a lot of Jeeps in the city as well. People were super upset when I put some of the pictures on Instagram. They were like, who paints a city on a Jeep? That's me, because you can take it from the city to the desert and a Jeep basically feels at home everywhere, or anywhere, I guess. So I wanted to have those two landscapes on there. Now, to decide what to do over there and what the correct painting order is, you just go from the back and you step by step work your way outward. I wanted to have a blue sky on the cityscape, and I wanted to have like a pink purple sky on the desert landscape. So I ripped a strip of tape just to have a transition to the original body color, and then I filled that in with some anodized colors. Again, pinks on the desert side and some blues on the city side. After that, I cut a bit more of a blunt line, masked everything up. Then I made sure that I had like a far away part in my landscape in that same tone, but like a bit darker. So what I did is I painted a strip of purple in the desert landscape, and I painted a strip of dark blue metallic in the city landscape. After that, you mask everything again, so there's a lot of going back and forth in a paint job like this. And I cut out a little silhouette for my cityscape and also for my desert landscape. You've seen me do something similar on the Axial Exoterra in the past, and the cityscape you've perhaps seen me do something similar on Sock Money, where I painted a Las Vegas skyline on the back of the truck. Putting like a silhouette on or making like a little landscape is really easy, but it is also really effective. So just grab a pen, go trace out the line that you want to cut eventually, and then just take a blade. Take your time with everything, you know, make sure that you have a good, comfortable working position, and just really take your time to dive into all of the detail to cut everything out. And just go with what you're comfortable with. If you just want to add some buildings in a cityscape like that, just do that. But if you want to add, for example, add a little water tower here, then see if you can challenge yourself a bit. It is a lot of fun. Painted all of that black. Then I remasked everything again, just because I knew that I wanted to have a logo over the top of those two landscapes. Plus then after that, my shut lines. I know it sounds really complicated, but it isn't. You just need to break it down in several different steps. So after those landscapes were done, masked everything up again. So I needed to draw on a HemiStorm logo on each side, cut that out, faded that in a contrasting color over the top of everything, and then again, I masked everything up and got it ready for cutting shut lines. I did add in mustard an Axial logo on the front over here, and also this tooth inside the grill. This tooth in the grill is like a tiny nod to JCR Off-Road. If you're not familiar with them, they used to be a licensing partner of Axial, and their Jeeps have like a contrasting tooth inside of that 7-slot grill, which I think looks really cool. They actually use that as a hat tip to Skunk Works, I think, which is like a custom Jeep builder. Back in the earlier 2010s, they made some concept Jeeps using a contrasting color also in the grill section of those Jeeps. So having that I thought was fun. It's also a bit nerdy, but that's fine. I also added some gunmetal detail in the grill, where you would also see it in a full-size Jeep. Added two gunmetal HemiStorm logos on the side of the hood, where you would usually find a Rubicon logo. Then masked everything up, cut up all of my shut lines, and that's when I started filling in also those trim lines around the windows, and also the glue lines on the inside. So that's a lot of paint work done in that step of adding all of the black. Then before taking off all of the masking, I did add a coat of a flat clear to everything, just to dull it down, but also to protect those little murals that I put on the sides of the truck, and also the logos on the hood. So all of that was done, and I must say that I'm really happy with the way that turned out. Then it was time to add even more detail to this Axial SCX6, this Jeep JLU. So I had my printer running for a couple of days to print several different items. Perhaps you've seen this in previous video. This is a snorkel by Night Customs, which I found on my mini factory, and I just blew this up. But currently, at the time of this filming, I think that all of the SCX6 files are up on my mini factory. You will also be able to find a roof rack like this, a front runner roof rack. I decided to modify mine using some Losi 5 light pots, for which I had some KC Highlights logos made. So I put those on just to give them a bit more detail. I think that they came out really nice. I gave all of this, all of the printed parts, so also the hinges. So you will see that on the hood and all the doors, and also on the tailgate. I put the hinges also by Night Customs. You can find all of that stuff on my mini factory. I'll make sure that there's a link in the video description box. I painted all of that stuff flat black just to take the shine off. The roof rack is printed in PETG just to give it a bit more flexibility in case I do have a rollover. I think that this roof rack will survive in case that happens. I also added some vented areas behind the front fenders, just because the full-size Jeep also has that. I painted the inside of the headlights with translucent yellow, just because otherwise I thought that it would be a lot of white light, seeing that I also added some more lights to the front, but also to the wheel arches. So the front has a 4-inch Proline LED light bar, and inside all of the wheel arches I added a 2-inch Proline LED light bar, which of course was also a nightmare to wire up, because you end up with like a bunch of wires that you all need to connect together and make sure that they do what they are supposed to do. I decided to have it in like a separate plug that I can either hook up to like a single battery, run it along with the truck, or I can have a separate battery where I run all of the LEDs, so the rock lights, but also the front one, off of their own separate 3S LiPo. Because currently I'm running it off the receiver, which is only 6 volts, but if I want to have it a lot brighter, these LEDs all take up to 12 volts of power. So I can just hook that up to a 3S LiPo and run it as such. That will also make sure that my running battery doesn't get drained so much. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you? Putting these rock lights in. A lot of fun if you take your time cutting them into the front fenders. You can actually slot them in, make them appear like they are factory. I didn't use any of the brackets. I glued them in place. So that's how they're mounted in the front. In the back you have a bit more of a problem, just since you also have the interior panel. So the only way to do it over there is just mount them to the inside of the fenders. Fortunately, however, there is more than enough room to do that. I think the last part I need to tell you is the interior panel. I added a bit of painting detail over there. I covered the whole thing with liquid mask just because it's such a complex shape that masking with tape is a bitch. So I didn't want to do that. So liquid mask is my go-to option for those type of areas. So I added 3 coats of a fast mask. If you use liquid mask, I have made a couple of videos in the past about liquid mask, but if you use liquid mask, make sure that your first 2 coats are parallel to each other, just to avoid you ruining the first coat when you add your second coat, and then your third coat you can cross that over. Leaves you with a really easy to cut surface. What I did is I added a coat of PS1 white to the top of it first. The interior panel, it is black as it comes. So what I did after I added that PS1 white, I added a coat of TS46, which is a sand color. And TS, usually you can't use that on top of a Lexan panel, but by adding that PS1, you can, because then you have something that it can adhere to. It gives it a nice, I think, luxury feeling. Add a lot of detail to the seats as well, just to make sure that it appears a bit more detailed than it was. I also added a 3D printed gear knob and a 3D printed 4-wheel drive selector knob, so just to have a bit more detail inside there, and also detailed up the driver figure. By giving him a really dodgy beard, I folded his hat a bit more by heating it up and painted that afterwards. And I also gave him Pit Viper glasses, which are made from a piece of a scrap Lexan. All in all, I think that it came out pretty okay. Now, all of the stuff that you see in that interior, apart of course from those shifter knobs, but like the cage and everything, you see it a bit better now that the windows are clear, but also this is all stuff that comes stock with the truck. So I think that's quite remarkable. It's basically just like the SCX 10.3, all of the detail that you see in that Jeep JLU over there, you also see it in this one. I added the hinges using some E6000 glue, just put that on the outside and well, put everything back together. Put it on the truck, put it on the chassis, and this is what it looks like currently. I hope that this explains it a bit, just in case that painting video didn't make any sense to you. I am going to take this out, hopefully tonight, just because I have all the running lights right now. So it will be really easy to see what I'm doing out on the trails with all of the rock lights as well, and that front LED light bar. I'm really excited for this release and really excited that this truck is currently out. If you want to have more detail, go check out my unboxing and initial review video. I will make sure that that is linked over here. If you have not subscribed yet, please do. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comments box. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button before you go. I will see you in the next video. Take care. Back on.